no games in you guys haven't played in 2.5 weeks. Does this feel like fall camp 2.0?
A little bit. It's really disappointing, I think, to everybody involved, actually, in the game, both teams, both coaching staffs, really both universities, because, there's a lot of competition that goes on between the two schools, academically as well as on the fields and courts. And so, it was something that transpired. Just like always, you got to be ready to move on and move forward in this game or in life in general. And our players are, I think, are pretty good at handling adversity and moving forward. We've taught that in our program for a lot of years, and to expect the unexpected and be able to deal with it.
Coach, you were able to return back to practice that Tuesday. So, since March, you guys have been wearing the masks and, doing everything that you need to do. Now that you finally got hit with a situation like this and were able to bounce back so quickly from it, what sort of went into the process of like creating a plan to be able to handle a situation like this?
Well, obviously bouncing back from a situation like that, even if you're ready to play a game, does not mean that that it's just moving on and moving forward as usual, as if nothing happened. You have guys that were still in quarantine, getting out of quarantine. All those things kind of come into play. Guys coming back at maybe different times out of quarantine, and hopefully nobody else going into quarantine or having some other issue come up that causes a problem. All those things can feed into what your week's all about. And again, our players are good at handling things. I like the way we practiced this past week. And it's not. These things are difficult to prepare for. You can't just say, well, we covered all the bases and we're so prepared that everything went on as normal. Well, things don't go on as normal, but you adjust and you find a way to make things work. And I think our players have done a good job at working at that.
Could you give us have you had any more stoppages or breaks or bad news since the announcement a week ago Sunday about the Miami game? Can you give us a status report on how things have been since that day?
Yeah. Well, normally I'm not into sharing bad news, so I'll move on from that. But yeah, we have gotten Kaim back, which has been big. Other than that, I won't go into discussing some things, because things are still day by day, and the game is not tomorrow, and so we're still hoping to be able to get some guys back, to have things continue to work from a positive for us. But at this point in time, we're certainly able to play the game, and we're moving forward with that in mind.
On Tuesday, since you guys weren't able to play, were you able to catch some of the other MAC games going on? I know there's Akron and Kent State, Buffalo and Bowling Green.
Yeah. Was able to do a little bit of that, and I think our players were able to probably do a little bit of that also. And so, but you get a little frustrated watching games of your upcoming opponents or guys in your same conference. You want them to do well, but not too well, and it just kind of plays out to where it's not a relaxing Saturday afternoon, as if you're watching a couple teams that very little about, but they play good football, and they're going to sit back, maybe have whatever popcorn or whatever the heck you have with your game, and then enjoy it. So it wasn't quite like that, but I did tune the games in. Sometimes got to where it was tough to watch the whole game, and but got most of it watched.
Coach, Jared Patterson was able to rush for over 300 yards against Bowling Green's defense. I know last season Bowling Green was a game where your offense was really able to flex its power. When you look at the film, what are some of the things that teams are doing that's able to run the ball so well against the Falcons?
Well, I don't know that everybody's just running up and down the field on them. When I turn on the film and you watch it from the way we watch it, sometimes I watch a complete game in sequence that just really try to get a feel for the game. Other times, I just watch offensive plays and defensive plays, or third and longs, or first down plays, and so you don't necessarily just get a strong feeling about how people are moving the ball against them, or how they're moving the ball against people, and so you just see down and distance tendencies and some of the other things that go with it. But obviously, number one, Buffalo, right, has an outstanding running attack, and so they've always had that. Great running back, great line. So they're going to move the ball on the ground, and how that'll work for us. We'll wait and see. Every game's something new. Obviously, we're built around trying to make the run work, and building off of that. So we'll give that a good shot. But I see them with very, very quick running backs and big, strong, physical linemen, and they really like to run the football. And so, it's going to be one of those games where it's a very, very physical football game, I think, up front, and that's going to really determine whether you are able to run the ball very well or even throw the ball very well. So you start with being physical, and hope that you're able to get some things going that gives you some momentum and builds for you in the game, and that you're able to not only just score from some big plays, but you're able to put long drives together and keep your defense off the field. Those are the kind of things that we're reaching for, right now, is to what can we do to make ourselves a better football team? And then if you do that, then usually things fall in place fairly well.
Obviously it's a big boost to get Kai back, but for the other guys who've been a little bit banged up, or just still being able to play, but just having that extra few days of rest, how big has that been for them, and have you been able to see sort of that rest play a factor in practice?
Well, the guys that are banged up and trying to come back aren't necessarily where they need to be. So we'll see how the rest of the week goes on some of those guys as to where they're at. But it's just the nature of the game. You're going to have guys banged up. You're going to have guys injuries. That's a whole part of it. But then you throw in COVID, and that just adds to the misery. And so you just try to do the best you can, prepare your team, prepare the backups, knowing that some of those guys are going to be playing heavy duty as you go down through not only your upcoming game, but the rest of the games on your schedule.
I know last year you guys, I think, had 7 different players score against Bowling Green. You going to try to face something or do something similar this year, get a lot of guys involved on offense and defense?
Well, not necessarily. We're going to play our guys that are the starters. We're playing a 2 quarterback system. We've talked about that, and the pluses and the minuses of a 2 quarterback system. The same can be true if you take that and put it to another position. We've got really good running backs, so we're going to try to get our guys some reps. But Demontre is our starter. We're going to make sure that he gets reps, and when it comes down to it, that he's in the ball game, on crucial drives or whatever you want to call them, and because he's earned that right by being the starter, and so that's played like that across the board, from the quarterback position, the running back position, wide receivers, tight ends, linemen, whatever, and so that's basically how we operate, and I think it's the fair and the right thing to do. But you always want to try to get as many players involved in the game as possible without breaking the momentum of your team or the momentum of a position.
Coach, obviously, you don't want to have a game canceled, but with this extra time and being in a position where if you win out, you can go to the MAC championship, how important has just the message of staying positive been for the guys these past few days?
Well, that message hasn't changed since day one, and if you if you look at how we've operated throughout the summer, when people were getting a lot of guys, or I maybe shouldn't say a lot, but some people were getting some guys that were contacted the COVID. We had done a great job through the summer. Some guys had gotten it, and they used the term the herd approach, where guys get it, and then they're able to play for several months without the risk of getting it. That didn't happen to us. We were really good from the very beginning on, and every now and then. So when we do get a couple positives or a positive, and you trace, that really comes back to hurt us some in regards to where you're at the moment. But overall, our guys have been tremendous. We keep preaching all the things that I believe everybody else is out there preaching. But I usually carry things to extreme. That's always been probably a problem of mine for myself, and maybe anybody else that's around me. I just kind of carry myself to extremes on things, and that's kind of how I work it with our players a little bit. I expect so much out of them in terms of just doing the right things that I think some of that sinks in. And I'm sure every coach has their way of getting to their players and getting them to get things done at a high level, and regardless of what you're talking about. And so I'm kind of driven in that way. And so that's just part of me, and the good or the bad, whatever you want to call it.
Coach, along those lines, maybe I'm reading you the wrong way here, but what was your belief level that you could get through this 6-week season without this cropping up at least once?
The way it was going, I thought we were going to have a chance. You just never know what all transpires, not only with your own kids, but opposing players. You play a game, there can be an effect there. We get on long bus rides. That's never a plus for you. But I thought the way we had handled it leading up to the season, that we were going to have a chance to get through this thing.
Is there any players that are going home for Thanksgiving? Everybody's gonna stay in Athens.
Yeah, we're here. Yep, we're here. We're playing football.
Coach, obviously those first two games was a chance to, fill out your quarterbacks and see who's really going to, sort of take the role of that starting running back. And obviously DeMontre's sort of secured that role. So my question is, going into this Bowling Green game, would you say like this is the most you've felt comfortable with your personnel currently on offense?
Well, I've been comfortable from really the start as to the type of offense we could become. We weren't there the first game totally. We made some progress in the second game, and I think we're a football team that'll just keep getting better and better. And so, that's how I view us. And whether you're talking about young quarterbacks, young quarterback getting experience like Curtis, or one that's played football before, Armani, at the college level, but is in a new system, or whether DeMontre had a good year last year, so he's got experience coming back. Some of our other players certainly in the offensive line, or you look at some of our young linebackers that are getting playing time, and I mean, there's just a lot of that has to come together. I've been pleased with the way it's coming together, and hopefully, that will continue to develop as we go through the rest of the season. The idea is to keep getting better and better. That's what we did last year. Now we were a really good football team at the end of the year now, and coming down the stretch and getting to a bowl game and what we got accomplished in a bowl game. And so those are all good things. We need to try to get us to a point where we get some things done a little bit better in the early part of the season to help us have the kind of year that really everybody wants to have.
Coach, could you compare what it's like normally this time of year, Thanksgiving weekend? This is it. This is the end of the regular season. You guys have played 2 games and really haven't even ramped up yet. Could you juxtapose those 2 feelings? One, you're winding down the year most of the time. This year, you're trying to get it cranked up.
Yeah. In terms of how you approach what you're doing and your work ethic, your team's work ethic, that's all the same. And so it really doesn't matter what time of the year you're doing it. Once you're into it, it's full go. And the same is true of the game itself. Once that kickoff occurs, you want people in the stands. You love to have people in the stands. That's what college football is all about. But if you don't, you still got to play the game at a high level, and you just carry on, and you don't let any of that bother you. And I don't think it's bothered our coaches. I think they've done a great job of adjusting, preparing well, and taking things the way they have to be taken in order to move yourself forward. And so, yeah, it's different, but it's not different in a way that it affects your job at all.
Anything else?
What do you see as being the key against BG on Saturday, Frank? What kinds of things are you looking forward or hoping to see after this layoff?
Well, I think it'll be important for both teams to establish the running game. I think both teams want to do that, and team that maybe does that the best gives themselves their best chance. They've got really quick running backs, and they do a lot of motion. They'll shift. They'll do things that will catch you out of position at times and take advantage of that. And then they'll make you miss tackles. So there's enough variety in their offense to concern you about getting reps against those things throughout the course of the week leading up to the game. So you worry about that a little bit. Then you go back to worrying about the normal things you worry about. Taking care of the ball and getting some turnovers and all those kind of things that play huge parts in the game.
Coach, I guess the situation that would sort of mirror this the most is sort of like a bye week. So coming into this game, with this extended time, how do you make sure the team doesn't come out flat?
Well, when you have a football team that wants to play the games so badly, which ours does and most teams in the country do, you don't have to really worry too much about coming out flat. Now, and we've only played a couple games, as you know, and so they're revved up to play again. There's maybe a point in time in the season where you're into your season, and you're all of a sudden find yourself maybe not practicing as well as you should, or something. You're in finals week, or something comes up that can maybe add to the possibility of you being a little flat in a game. But you can't afford to not, let alone the regular season. But a season like this, you can't afford to be flat in the game. You know, there's no makeup room on it. And so you just got to be ready to go right from the start. And that comes back a little bit to leadership, making sure that everybody on the team is practicing the way they're supposed to be practicing, that, you know, the effort is good, that they're continuing to work on, even if you go through a bye week, continuing to work on conditioning. And Dak is doing a great job in the weight room to continue to work on their strength and endurance. And so, you know, you start covering all those bases, and generally those things help you from becoming flat. But if you show up on the practice field and you just go through the motions and don't have good practices, you're vulnerable as heck. And you know, and our team, I think, understands that. And you know, I'm hoping doesn't get caught in that kind of a situation.
Does any part of you feel like your team, the program as a whole is a little bit ticked off at this point? You guys have sacrificed so much to try to make this season happen, and
Yeah.
and got dinged with losing one of those games. Is there a, maybe not anger, but is there a certain motivation that you've got a sense has built up here in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, you know, I think you know, there's frustration, obviously, along with not playing a game, or you know, all of a sudden guys are needing to sit out for one reason or another. You know, all that comes into play, where it can get irritable to you, and it's bothersome to you. But again, it's all on how you handle things, determines whether or not you're able to go through a season and face what you normally would face in a season. You know, injuries, or a guy coming down sick, or you know, just small things. You know, something that's caused disruption within a player, whether it's a family issue or whatever issue. You know, there's all kind of things that enter into you all of a sudden, having an opportunity to take yourself out of playing well, or a game. And you just got to know, though, you got to understand that, you got to recognize those things, and then you just got to you know, play above them. And you know, I think our guys do an excellent job of that. And so there's going to be more things, you know, that pop up this season, as short as it is, and as little time as there is left in this season, that will test not only our team, but will test other teams. And we'll handle them well. I'm convinced of that. And but you got to handle them well enough to win games.